Our gospel today is one of my personal favorites because I identify so much with Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus and I are almost the same person, except he's a tax collector and I'm obviously not. But we're both short, which means if we're not in the front row, we can't see a thing. And we're both sinners. Now, I know we all identify with that second quality, and I'm not alone. We all may not be short, but we all know that we're sinners and that we're in need of God's healing and mercy. What I hope we can all learn from this gospel story is that no sin is greater than God's love. Zacchaeus is a man who stole from people, most of whom were so poor that Zacchaeus would have taken everything they had. He's a man who destroyed lives and maybe led some people to be imprisoned for not paying, or even death for lack of resources. He would have been an awful man that the entire community would have hated. And yet Jesus stops, calls him by name, and accepts the invitation to eat at his house. Zacchaeus encountered love in Jesus because God is love, and it caused a conversion of heart. Look closely at what Zacchaeus says. "Behold, half of my possessions, Lord, I will give to the poor. And if I extorted anything from anyone, I shall repay it 4 times over." So everyone Zacchaeus stole from, he's going to repay them 4 times more than what he originally stole. And all of his possessions that he has left, he will give half to the poor. That's above and beyond restitution and justice. That will probably lead him to bankruptcy. But that is the power with which an encounter with God, who is love, will inspire in a person. Think of your own lives when you encountered God. What changed within you? For those of you who are married, how have you changed since you encountered God in your spouse? For those of you who are parents, how have you changed since you encountered God in each of your children? For those of you who have an active prayer life, how have you changed as you encounter God in your prayer? As a young priest, I really can't begin to explain how I've changed because of my encounters with God, especially in each and every single one of you at this parish. Just over a week ago, the Archdiocese hosted an event called Holy Fire for middle school students preparing for the sacrament of confirmation. And I accompanied our 8th grade school and religious education students to the event with their teachers. And it was a great event. It was filled with music and prayer, Mass, the Sacrament of Reconciliation. Just over 2,000 kids were present. And my favorite part of the whole day was watching our students, seeing them all connect, laugh, pray, dance to the music, get excited at various parts. It made me so happy. I saw and encountered God in our students just as much as I encountered God in the sacraments that I celebrated as a priest that day. And I know you all encounter God in very similar ways. Now, as much as I want you all to reflect on where and in whom you encounter God and how that has changed you, what I really want you to reflect on today is how you are an image of God, and whether or not people see God and encounter him within you. We know all the cliches: actions speak louder than words, preach the gospel at all times, when necessary, use words, and the like. But do you actually live that way? When people see you, do they see Zacchaeus the sinner, or do they see Jesus the healer? When people see you, do they see you, or do they see Christ within you? Does your family encounter God in you? Do people at the Jewel encounter God in you? Does your neighbor encounter God in you? Does that annoying coworker encounter God in you? Do stubborn Cubs-hating Sox fans encounter God within you? Friends, we have over 1,000 families in this parish, which means we should have 4,000 people walk through these doors every weekend. And evenly divided among our 4 masses, that means we should have 1,000 people at every mass. Clearly, we do not have 1,000 people here this morning. And if you want to help bring people to Christ, then you need to be Christ outside of these sacred walls and walk with them back to this holy altar so that they too can become Christ by receiving him in the Eucharist. Don't shame them, don't yell at them, certainly don't force them. Just love them. Allow them to encounter God within you. And eventually they will ask, what is it that makes you whole? What makes you happy and joyful? What is it that makes you so humble and loving? And when your answer is your relationship with Jesus and receiving the sacraments, believe me, they will run, not walk, with you here to the banquet of heaven. Conversion happens through encountering the divine. Become a vehicle of that encounter so that together we can convert the whole world to become Jesus.